Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're sharing some really unsettling real-life accounts, stories you might see labeled as true scary stories.
Yeah, things that actually happen to people.
And our mission, really, is to pull out the key insights from them. They're not just scary tales, they're like these stark windows into human nature, you know, our vulnerabilities.
And how darkness can show up in really surprising ways, often using, well, the very tools meant to connect us.
Exactly. It's about being informed, seeing the patterns maybe, and getting those aha moments about the world. So let's get into these.
What's really crucial here is seeing how these personal stories from totally different places, different situations,
Right.
they link up. They tell us something bigger about risk, about psychology, about dangers hiding in plain sight, whether it's, out in the wilderness or even online.
Yeah, how normal stuff can just flip into something extraordinary, terrifying even.
And it makes you question your basic sense of safety, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And what actually motivates these really disturbing acts? Or sometimes the lack of motivation.
Okay, let's start with the Appalachian Trail. For so many people, it's this symbol of peace, escape.
A rite of passage, yeah.
But for some, tragically, it became this landscape of, well, pure terror. And this first account, it involves a threat that's really hard to comprehend. Randall Smith.
Yes.
Even as a kid back in Pearisburg, Virginia, they called him Lying Randall. Just a habitual liar.
An early sign, maybe?
He seemed to find this weird kind of comfort walking the Appalachian Trail alone, even from a young age. Sometimes he'd just disappear for days.
Smith's case is just a chilling example of what you might call motiveless violence. It's arguably the most terrifying kind because it's so unpredictable.
Right, no reason you can point to.
Exactly. Our minds, the justice system, we need a reason, a logic behind awful things. But the insight here is that some dangers just don't make sense.
So the focus has to be on recognizing behavior, maybe? Even if you don't get the why.
Precisely. Recognizing patterns, even when the motive is totally elusive.
And this lack of motive, it became this awful pattern with him. In 1981, he was connected to the murders of Susan Ramsey and Robert Mountford, two social workers hiking the trail.
Near the Wapiti shelter, right?
Yeah.
The bodies were found there.
Yeah. Smith was caught eventually, but there was this controversial plea bargain. Apparently, the, quote, complete lack of motive played a part.
So what did he get?
30 years, but he only served 15. Got out in 96 as a supposed model inmate.
15 years for 2 murders. That's something.
It really is. And that pattern, the violence, then this quick return to society, it set this really chilling stage for what happened later. After he got out, Smith went back to Pearisburg. Sort of a recluse, but he was still hanging around the Appalachian Trail.
Still drawn to it.
Yeah, and he looked different. Not the portly young man from the conviction photos. He was like gaunt, pale, looked harder. And the really creepy part, people would see him chatting with hikers who had no idea who he was.
Just blending in.
Then, 2008, he disappears again, back into the woods, took his dog Bo with him. Months later, 2 fishermen, Scott Johnston and Sean Farmer, run into him near the same Wapiti shelter area.
Oh, no.
He calls himself Ricky Williams, tells them all these crazy stories. Virginia Tech, NASA, rich, married to Miss USA, just lies.
Building some kind of false persona?
Yeah. They share a meal, and then he just pulls out a .22 pistol and shoots both of them. Multiple times.
It forces you to think about the psychological shock. Meeting someone, having a normal interaction, and then that. Pure chaos, no reason.
It completely challenges our need to find an explanation, doesn't it?
It does. It leaves you with that terrifying thought that some dangers are just random.
Yeah.
Walking among us, totally unnoticed.
Incredibly, Scott and Sean survived. They managed this desperate escape, bleeding, driving through the dark woods until they found a house.
Wow. Miraculous, really.
Smith got caught later in their stolen truck, died in jail at 54. Maybe natural causes, but some reports say he was, quote, disappointed that his victims had survived.
Disappointed. That says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah. The chilling bottom line remained. Absolutely no motives to his murders. He killed, apparently, simply for the sake of killing because it thrilled him.
Just, wow.
Which brings us to another equally disturbing kind of story from the trail. This one's about unseen threats.
Okay.
It's a personal account from 1989. A hiker wakes up and there's this, quote, big dark shape looming over them. A person, just standing there, statues still staring.
Oh my God. Just staring.
The hiker just bolted, ran into the woods.
I don't blame him.
Weeks pass. They're 100 miles further down the trail. They wake up again, this time cocooned in their hammock, being dragged.
Dragged while in the hammock.
Yeah, dragged across the forest floor. They managed this crazy escape, used an old watch clasp to cut themselves free.
That's quick thinking under pressure. But the persistence, 100 miles later.
Exactly. And later, their uncle apparently confirmed something chilling. He said, there are people who live up in those mountains who have been outlaws for generations outside society, who see things they shouldn't.
Okay, so that adds a whole other layer. It's not just maybe one disturbed individual, but potentially something more ingrained, like generational outlaws.
Right, that's the implication.
That really stands out. The persistence, the capability of this unknown threat makes you think about these pockets of like true wilderness, even within a developed country. Dangers that are just totally unseen by most people.
The idea of someone or something tracking you for 100 miles, getting past your defenses, it's terrifying. Makes you consider what's really lurking out there. And then there's the tragedy of Geraldine Largay. She was 66, hiker named Inchworm, out on the trail in 2013.
I remember this case. So sad.
She apparently had a poor sense of direction, and that became fatal. Took a wrong turn in Maine, ended up in this dense military training area.
Oh, wow. Easy to get lost there.
She kept a journal, wrote about trying desperately to text her husband, George, messages like, lost since yesterday, got off trail to go to the bathroom, now lost.
But they didn't go through.
No signal. She set up her tent, but it was under these thick hemlock trees. Hard to see from the air, even though she tied up a shiny blanket.
Geraldine Largay's story really hits home how thin that veneer of civilization is, especially in the wilderness. It shows the illusion of modern connectivity.
Yeah, you think your phone will save you.
Exactly. But technology fails, and our reliance on it sometimes makes us forget how vulnerable we are to just nature's indifference, even in places that seem accessible. It's a real wake-up call.
Tribes reported her missing, of course. Huge searches, but nothing. Agonizingly fruitless, they called it. Her body wasn't found for 2 years.
2 years. So close to the trail.
Less than a mile, found by a surveyor. She died from exposure and starvation. Her last journal entry just asked them to call her family when they found her body.
That's heartbreaking.
It's a different kind of terror, isn't it? Vanishing so completely, so close, yet so far from help.
Okay, so from those isolated trails, we need to shift. Because danger isn't just out there in the wild. Right. It can creep into the most, well, mundane parts of life, often from people you might initially just think are a bit off.
Let's look at some of those everyday encounters that turned horrific. Okay, this first one. A narrator was out of work during lockdown, needed a room, found this guy Hano on Craigslist or Facebook.
Okay, common situation.
But it got weird fast. He's wearing a kabuki mask, insists she wear one too, and his bedroom, full of mannequins and kimonos with these hand-painted, creepily realistic faces.
Whoa, red flags everywhere.
And Hano says he's already memorized her face. Then she realizes. No open windows, deadbolt on the door from the outside.
Trapped.
Yeah, his comment about break-ins. More often than not, it's the other way around. Then he refuses to let her leave, claps his hands, and sensor lights go off.
This is textbook manipulation combined with vulnerability. That's what's so insidious here.
Yeah.
A seemingly normal offer masking something deeply disturbing.
What should you take away from that?
You have to trust that gut feeling, that immediate sense of unease, even if things seem okay on the surface. Those polite gestures can hide really awful intentions.
Well, this narrator acted fast, elbowed him, hit the light switch, grabbed what she thought was his head, maybe the mask, and found a spare key hidden inside a broken antique.
Smart move. Resourceful.
She ran, heard him asking the building receptionist where she went. Later, her friend Lexi found out Hano targeted women in bad situations, 2 previous tenants, missing.
Oh, God. And the mannequins.
Yeah. She wondered if those painted faces were like tributes to his victim.
Chilling. Absolutely chilling.
Okay, next case. Start smaller, almost trivial. A retail worker dealing with a persistent underage teen. Matt later found out his name was Leon Carroll trying to buy cigarettes.
Happens all the time in retail, yeah.
She warns him about juvie. Later, he finds her in the parking lot, steals her purse.
Okay, that's an escalation.
Weeks go by. Then anonymous Facebook friend requests start messages. Then a photo of her house. Then stop ignoring me, scratched into her car door.
This is a terrifyingly clear example of escalation, from a minor annoyance to full-blown stalking and harassment.
What's the insight here?
It highlights how someone's inability to handle rejection, combined with easy access to personal info online, can spiral into a dangerous obsession. We often dismiss those early signs, don't we?
Yeah, you brush it off as someone being weird.
But you shouldn't. Those early red flags need to be taken seriously because they can grow into something much worse.
And it did get worse. He set up a date with her using a fake name, Richard. She goes to the restaurant.
And it's him. It's Matt.
It's Matt, dressed up nicely, but he brought a knife, tried to pull it on her.
Oh my God.
Police came, he got arrested, tasered even, and when they searched his stuff, they found a binder full of photos of her with these weird love notes.
Wow. From trying to buy cigarettes to a binder full of photos and a knife attack.
Yeah, it shows how quickly that unhealthy obsession can turn violent. Okay, another one, going back a bit. A woman remembers helping her mom at their family's truck diner when she was maybe 10 or 11. She got an immediate predator vibe, her words, from one specific truck driver.
Kids often pick up on things.
He was just too chatty, asking really personal stuff like, "Don't you sometimes wish you had a new daddy?" Even her mom felt something was off.
That question. So creepy.
One time, she was alone at the counter for a minute. He came back, started talking again, then offered to show her a puppy and a brand new Barbie in his truck.
The classic horrible lure.
Just as she was about to go, her mom showed up, intervened.
Thank goodness. Timing is everything.
After that, the trucker started sending gifts to the diner for her. Fancy dresses.
Still trying to groom her, even indirectly.
The family moved away eventually. Years later, her mom told her the full truth.
That man was going to take you. I think he probably would have killed you had I not been there that day.
Wow. That retroactive realization must have been terrifying.
Police never found him, but he'd apparently sent typed love letters, too, saying he wanted to raise her, be her good father. This really speaks to that idea of children's intuition, doesn't it? Sometimes sensing danger more acutely than adults. And it highlights that calculated, patient predation.
The insight.
Trust those gut feelings. Trust that unease, even if you can't articulate why, even if the threat isn't shouting in your face, especially when kids express that fear.
Okay, so we've seen dangers in the wild, dangers in everyday encounters now. Let's talk about social media.
Ah, yes. The double-edged sword, designed for connection.
But becoming this potent tool for violence, extremism, and just profound harm, our sources show some really disturbing trends here.
It's a fast track to seeing the dark side of online life.
Take the Boogaloo movement. These two guys, Stephen Carrillo and Robert Justice, they met in a Facebook group, an anti-government extremist group.
So finding like-minded extremists online.
And they used Facebook to plan an attack, specifically targeting federal law enforcement during a Black Lives Matter protest in Oakland, May 2020. They wanted to use the protest as cover.
Exploiting chaos. Despicable.
They shot and killed a federal security guard, Dave Underwood, and injured another officer. Carrillo actually posted things like, "Go to the riots and support our own cause." The intent was clear.
This is a stark illustration of how these platforms, designed for communication, can just inadvertently become breeding grounds for radicalization.
And coordinating real-world violence.
Absolutely. It forces that difficult question about free speech versus incitement and the sheer scale of content moderation. How do you police that effectively with billions of users? It's this whole ecosystem of extremism now.
Facebook said later they'd remove this stuff, but it's a huge challenge.
Immense.
Okay, next case, Jonathan Robinson. He got enraged over social media drama about his breakup with Renita Williams.
A relationship dispute spilling over from online.
Massively. He stormed her house with a semi-automatic rifle, forced Renita at gunpoint to start a Facebook Live broadcast.
Oh no, live!
Yeah, humiliated her, made her apologize to his new girlfriend live on camera. Police got there fast, but Jonathan just executed Renita right there on the live stream.
Executed her. Live on Facebook.
Then got into nearly an hour-long shootout with the police before surrendering. Got life in prison.
The sheer depravity of that. Using instant global communication to turn a private tragedy into this public weaponized spectacle. It's horrifying.
What does that tell us?
It shows how technology can just amplify the absolute worst parts of human rage and control. The fact that a public execution is now, as you said, potentially a few button clicks away, it says so much about the performative nature of some violence now and how instantly this stuff spreads.
It's a chilling thought. Now, a case where Facebook was key to solving a crime. Stephen Nicholson.
Okay, a different angle.
He rented a room from Lucy McHugh's parents, became the prime suspect when Lucy was murdered. Police had a really tight deadline, 96 hours to charge him.
High pressure.
Nicholson claimed Lucy messaged him on Facebook saying she was pregnant with his child, but he refused to give the police his Facebook password.
Withholding potential evidence? Risky move.
Police got creative. They used UK terrorism legislation, specifically RIPA Section 53, to charge him with obstructing justice for not giving the password. That jailed him for 14 months.
Wow, using terrorism laws for a password. That bought them time, though.
Crucial time, and that's where the tech comes in again.
Right. This case is fascinating because it's where digital forensics meets traditional police work head-on.
How so?
It shows how tiny bits of digital data, a phone pinging slightly off course or refusing to give up a password, can be the absolute key, the linchpin in solving a complex crime. It really forces us to think about the legal balance, Digital privacy versus public safety. That line is constantly shifting.
So, while he was jailed, a cloud data analyst found this tiny blip in his phone's location data, pointed towards Tanner's Brook.
And they searched there.
Yep. Found a bloodstained hoodie, other items described as a murder kit. That gave them the DNA evidence they needed to convict him. The password refusal bought the time to find the digital breadcrumb.
Incredible. The digital footprint led them right to it.
Now, this next one is a truly horrifying betrayal. Kaylee Dunning was going through hell.
What happened?
Intimate selfies were stolen, sent to her family, her boss. A fake Facebook profile was set up using her pictures. Just horrendous abuse online, the report said.
It's awful. Destroying someone's reputation like that.
And through it all, her boyfriend, Mark Branford, was her rock, her only source of comfort.
Okay, I have a bad feeling about this.
You should. Turns out Mark was behind all of it, every bit of the online abuse.
No, he was the stalker and the comforter.
Exactly. Using Facebook to systematically break her down, control her, isolate her until she was completely dependent on him.
That's diabolical. Psychological torture.
Then he proposed to her, and then he beat her to death with a crowbar in his home.
Oh my God.
Police described him as an extremely jealous man. He planned the murder meticulously, intending for it to be blamed on the stalkers, the ones he invented.
That level of calculated cruelty.
Yeah.
Using the very tools of connection to destroy someone, then murder them.
It's a chilling reminder, isn't it? The wolf can absolutely be inside the fold, weaponizing trust itself. These stories really hammer home the power of social media to escalate things, even from seemingly small beginnings. One narrator talked about getting a random DM on Facebook, just, "I'm gonna kill you," and a cowboy emoji.
Just out of the blue.
Totally random. The sender's profile had pics with guns, knives, weird captions like "chainsaw goes through his neck like butter."
Okay, that's beyond unsettling.
Initially, she tried to brush it off, but the randomness, knowing this person could see her public profile, get info, it caused severe anxiety. Later, she looked again, and the photo seemed to be taken in her own town.
That proximity makes it so much worse. It raises that crucial question, doesn't it? In this age where so much of us is online.
How do you tell what's real?
Exactly. How do you sort credible threats from just online noise? And what's the psychological toll of always having to be vigilant, always wondering, that random personal threat? It highlights our vulnerability when our digital lives are exposed. Makes you think about managing that online footprint.
Absolutely, and sometimes the trigger is unbelievably petty. Billy Payne and his girlfriend, shot dead.
Why? What happened?
The killers. A Vietnam vet and someone else. The motive. Billy and his girlfriend had unfriended the vet's daughter on Facebook after some arguments.
Unfriended them on Facebook. That was the motive for murder.
Apparently. The daughter had even made up a story about a fake CIA agent telling her dad that Billy and his girlfriend were dangerous. Just madness.
It's a proportion that doesn't even begin to cover it.
Or consider the Philippines.
Yeah.
A husband arguing with his wife, who is in Canada, over Facebook. She stops replying.
Okay.
He snaps, stabs their 7-year-old daughter to death, takes pictures of her body, uploads them to Facebook, and tags his wife.
No, he tagged her in photos of their dead daughter.
Yes.
These cases show this terrifying disconnect, don't they? Between a perceived digital slight or an online argument and this extreme, disproportionate real-world violence.
It's like the online world bleeds into the real world with fatal results.
And it reveals this alarming capacity for human rage, amplified by instant global communication, turning private disputes into these weaponized public spectacles. The insight is just how quickly trivial online stuff can become deadly. Some people clearly value a perceived online insult more than a human life.
And one last example, the Facebook murder in Holland. 2 teenage friends, 15, 16 years old, had a fight over Facebook after a New Year's party. One called the other a sleaze.
Teenage drama happens all the time.
But the girl, who was called a sleaze, asked a male friend to teach the judgmental friend a lesson.
Oh no, not just words anymore.
He recruited another friend. They went to the girl's house and stabbed her, repeatedly. Her dad tried to intervene and got stabbed too.
Over being called a sleaze on Facebook.
Yeah, the girl died a week later, and the consequences. The actual stabber served only 1 year in juvenile detention. The two who organized it got 2 years.
That seems incredibly light for orchestrating a murder.
The Dutch media called it Facebook murder. A social media spat literally led to a planned killing. It just highlights how a small online spark can ignite something devastatingly real.
It truly shows how skewed some people's values are. An online insult weighed against a life.
So, after hearing all this, what does it really mean for you listening? We've gone through stories that are, yes, scary, but also deeply informative.
Informative about those darker patterns of human behavior and how modern tech gets weaponized in ways we maybe don't always anticipate.
From those quiet Appalachian trails to the digital spaces we live in every day,
Yeah.
that line between safe and dangerous, it can be incredibly thin.
Yeah, and our whole understanding of why people do things can just be turned completely upside down.
So, connecting this to the bigger picture,
It really underscores how vital critical thinking is. You have to learn to spot those subtle red flags, both in person and online. Understand that malice can come from anywhere, even seemingly harmless places or people.
it makes you ask, doesn't it?
It does. How much of our own lives are we putting out there without thinking? And how can we be more aware of these reflections? Sometimes they're distorted, sometimes terrifyingly clear, mirroring the darker sides of human nature.
The stories we share today, they aren't just entertainment. They're meant as a stark reminder we need vigilance in a world where real threats, real monsters, sadly, walk among us. And often they look and sound just like anyone else.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with.
Yeah.
Just consider how much of your own life is openly visible online. That transparency seems harmless, right?
Yeah.
But what unforeseen consequences might it hold one day? Something to think about.